Last fall, after the motor failed at Gingerman, I pulled the motor and took it apart with my dad. And the motor is now back from Holbrook Racing. We've got forged internals, 11.5:1 compression, ported heads, CompCams, road race oil pan. Lots of goodies. Time to put it back together and get it back in the car. I also installed a tow hook and a Mishimoto oil cooler. Now the motor has MANLEY H-beam forged rods and diamond piston. Here you can see the MMR coolant crossover loop, ATI balancer, McLeod RST twin disc clutch. Clutch is on, transmission is connected to the engine, and we're ready to try and put it in. This is the first time I've tried to put the engine back in the car with the headers and transmission on. It turned out to be not bad at all. Clearances are really tight, but if you take your time, it's totally doable. We've gotten the motor in the car and the Mishimoto oil cooler lines connected. AC compressor, alternator, water pump, and belts are all installed. Now begins the most fun portion, where we try and remember where the engine harness connects to everything. So back when the motor failed last fall, I didn't take any video of pulling the engine and the teardown, so I'm sorry. I have some still pictures which I'll put in here. A lot of people on Mustang forums had theories about what failed. Most of them were involving the oil pump gears. They thought that the oil pump gears shattered and maybe the timing sprocket broke. The block was fine, the pistons were fine, the heads were fine. Most likely what caused the failure was oil starvation. High G-forces on the track resulted in the oil sloshing up to one side of the motor and the pickup tube not pulling enough oil. Two rod bearings spun, the bearing material clogged the oil pickup tube, and that's how I lost pressure. 6 of the 8 rods bearings look like that, and 2 of the rods look like this. You can see the color difference in the rods. This is the failed crank. That's the one journal where the 2 bearings spun. Instead of the stock injectors, I put Ford Performance 47-pound injectors on, and I sent the intake manifold and throttle body off to Airflow Solutions to get ported. During the rebuild, Holbrook Racing sent me a lot of photos of the progress. We've got some head porting here and some valve porting. We've got a diamond piston and MANLEY H-beam rods. We've got ARP bolts on the bottom end, a MMR Hurricane Oil Pump, TSS timing sprocket, and the cylinders honed. I have installed a heat shield underneath the intake manifold to potentially lower inlet air temps. And on that theme, though it may be completely a waste of effort, I have also heat shield wrapped the JLT inlet air tube. The intake manifold and air intake are on, and we're about to fill the engine with coolant. I added a couple bottles of Redline water wetter to the coolant. This is a brand new hood. It's made by MPconcepts and it's supposed to look like the GT350's hood. And then I cut a hole in it and installed a Trackspec center vent and installed some Aerocatch latches. Instead of the factory strut brace, I installed a Steeda aftermarket one that's lighter. I replaced my previous catch can setup with this breather tank from UPR, which connects to both sides of the engine.
I'm so happy that the car's back together, that it starts and it idles. Now I just need some warmer weather so I can put a couple hundred miles on the car before I change the oil and then make an appointment to get it tuned. If you've watched this whole video, thanks, and I hope you enjoyed it.